Just a little bit about us. The University of Arizona Center for Innovation, UACI, is located here in Tucson, Arizona. And we are a traditional incubator that serves scalable science and technology startups. And we have been working specifically in the solar field for many years. And next slide, Sonia. And we have on site the Solar Zone, which is a large testing and demonstration site that we operate as part of a partnership with our local utility, Tucson Electric Power. And so that allows us to support many solar efforts and solar technology, and has also allowed us to expand beyond solar into many other renewable energy technologies and being able to provide support to innovators and entrepreneurs like yourself. Next slide. And as I shared, we are part of many power connectors that are serving entrepreneurs and innovators that are working on renewable energy technology. And you'll just see like a quick effort here on all the different power connectors that are working on many different initiatives and programs to support funding and advancement of technology. Next slide. And for that particularly, we are doing this effort to support this SBIR STTR release with two other power connectors, ADL Ventures and Yet2. And I do see a couple of them in the room today, so feel free to pop your contact information in the chat and introduce yourselves if you'd like to. But we're really excited to continue our work with ADL Ventures and Yet2, who are also offering some different resources like office hours and educational opportunities, as well as applicant support. And so we'll let you know a little bit more about that as we get further along today. Next slide. And so now I'm going to turn it over to today's speaker. Sonia Vohnout is a subject matter expert with UACI, but she's also a founder of an organization called OpSpot. So I'll turn it over to you, Sonia, and let you give yourself a little bit more in-depth introduction.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We've got a whole bunch of information to cover, so I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm Sonia Vohnout, like Amanda said, and I own a consulting company called OpSpot. I've got a team of subject matter experts, and we provide services such as providing support for the SBIR STTR program, as well as commercialization strategies, and we support awardees with TABA services as well. So for today, the purpose here is to help you learn about the basic components of a DOE SBIR Phase 1 or SBIR STTR Phase 1 proposal. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. And I will share, based on my experience, a little bit of some strategies in writing proposals, specifically technical proposals, leveraging a systems engineering approach. And then we'll go over some of the evaluation criteria and other resources that can help you with your proposal and submissions. Okay, so the place to start is putting together a proposal strategy, right? So where do we begin? What are some key planning steps? How do you prepare a plan? And what's going to give you some keys to success? Not very good today with my mouse. All right. So before you begin, the most important thing to do is to read your solicitation. Even if you have folks helping you like ourselves, you still are responsible for reading the entire solicitation. And make sure that you understand updates. Please unmute yourself if you haven't, so we don't get feedback. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. So typically a solicitation from one release to the other might have updates. So the fact that you read last year's solicitation doesn't mean the new one's going to be the same. So there might be updates. So that's why it's important to read every detail. Due dates are super important, specifically if it has not only a date, but a time. So make sure you understand that. There are important aspects like page counts, fonts, margins, and they typically are all different between different submission sites and agencies. So the fact that you've submitted a proposal to the DOD doesn't mean that it's going to be the same number of pages or margins, for example, if you're doing an NIH proposal. So keep that in mind. Understand how you're going to submit, because if you wait till the end, it might be too late. And the information or the request from the agents might be subject to change without notice. So you have to make sure that you're subscribed to their listserv so that you get updates on emails if indeed there is a change. Make sure you understand the eligibility information. One important one is you've got to be a U.S. company. So if you're not a U.S. company and the work is not going to be done in the United States, you're probably not going to be eligible for an SBIR, STTR solicitation, and your application will be denied. And there's all kinds of proposal preparations instruction. Understand the selection and evaluation criteria, because your proposal should tell a story that reflects your understanding of this evaluation criteria. And if there are agency contacts, make sure you understand when you can contact them and how. All right. So be prepared to spend possibly 100 hours, 200 hours. This can be a very time-consuming process. So I know that we've discussed in the past this before, but make sure you understand if your capabilities are well aligned with the mission of the agency that you're submitting your proposal to and the topic description. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of time and submit a proposal that most likely won't win. Make sure you register early, understand the requirements, do all your literature and market research, learn about the agency, and develop relationships, write a compelling work plan and R&D activities, have a really strong commercialization strategy. You need to understand your market and who your customers are going to be. There's the elements of the financials. So we're not going to discuss those here. There's going to be a separate webinar for that. But you need to know how to prepare a budget and how much it's going to cost for you to do what you say you're going to be doing. Build a very strong technical team. Make sure that you have the adequate resources and facilities. And keep in mind the following questions. What are you going to be doing and how you're going to be doing it? Why is it worthwhile doing it? Who's going to be doing the work? Where are you going to do the work? When and how you're going to carry out these tasks and how much it's going to cost. So keep this in mind, because as we go through the description of how to write a good proposal, we're going to be addressing these questions. All right, registrations. I'm not going to dwell too much on this because previous webinars we've talked to you about this. If you're not registered with SAM, you're probably in the wrong place today. You need to register with SAM. It could take a few days to a few months to get that UEI in place, and without it, you can't submit an application. And most likely, if you don't have a UACI, you probably were not able to submit your letter of intent either. You will need to register in grants.gov, and for that, you're going to need a SAM registration anyways. And there are requirements for how to submit a proposal, so make sure you understand who your business contact is, who the authorized organization representative is. And grants.gov has a really good help resource desk. So if you do this early, they're going to help you set this up. So don't worry about it. Just start early. And then you're going to need to require with the SBA or the SBIR site, and they're going to give you a registration PDF file that sometimes you're going to need to submit as part of your application. And then we've discussed PAMs and we've discussed the letter of intent, so I'm not going to talk too much about that today. And here are the elements of the LOI. It is required. You're going to need to know what that LOI number is in your cover page for your registration. And we know that you had to submit it a couple days ago. We know the purpose so that they can align the right resources to review your proposal and to make sure that it's properly aligned with the topic you're submitting to. And there's going to be limits on how many letters of intent you could submit. Okay. So here's my recommendation for the technical research you're going to need to make sure that you have good alignment and that you write a compelling proposal. Understand what prior awards have been done or given out so that you know if they're funding and who's funding research for your capabilities and for what you intend to do, but also to understand who your potential competitors are going to be. Read those references that are on the topic descriptions, because that's going to give you also an idea of what the topic author is looking for in your proposal. Review previous topics. That gives you a lot of information and who's been given awards for those topics. DOE tends to have similar or the same topics from one year to the other. So it would be opportunistic for you to make sure that if there was a similar or the same topic, who won, right? And understand what that prior art is going to be. Develop a relationship with these technical point of contacts if you haven't done so already, so that you understand really what their thought process was and what they're really looking for. And that way you're going to have a better understanding of the requirements, review the topic references, what other publications are they there, and do the agency research. In this case, of course, the DOE, understand the offices, what their missions are, what they're looking for, what they have funded. Okay. Also, you need to do market research. Investigate what topic for commercialization areas, what would be a good relationship for the topic. And then in case, like, for instance, if there's dual use for commercialization, most likely the DOE won't be your customer. So you need to understand who you're going to be your customer, and will it be necessary to partner with one of the national laboratories for you to test and implement your idea or innovation, and understand who will be your phase 3 commercialization partners, because you're going to be having to describe this on the commercialization plan of your proposal. And make sure that there is a market need. Otherwise, you're going to do all this for what, right? And the reviewers are going to notice that there is not a good market need or a market fit for your technology. All right. So here's where we start writing your proposal plan. So identify your team and create a proposal plan. I like to create a master outline, and I'll show you some samples. It doesn't have to be identical for your case, but it's a good place to start. Understand how many pages you're going to budget for each section of your proposal, who's going to be doing it, when are things going to be done and completed by, and right now you have probably about a month and a week or something like that to submit your proposal. So technically, I like to start 10 or 8 weeks earlier. So hopefully you've been doing some of these good practices by now. If not, you're going to be playing catch. And because I like to have weekly reviews with my teams. And then set dates for an interim review of your proposal and a final review before you submit. And I recommend for your final review to use someone who's not familiar with your company or technology, so that they're going to give you a good objective review of your proposal, rather than keep on reviewing it with the same team and people, because by that time, by the final review, we're just like saturated and overwhelmed, and we're going to miss critical stuff. So use an outsider for your final review. So here's a typical proposal plan where these are, in general, very high-level activities, but it captures the most important sections of almost every agency proposal. So if you have this, it will give you a good start. But I believe DOE might even have a checklist that you could use in reference that you could augment this for. And then you could set due dates for when you have these completed and who, and then make sure that you look at the submission site. In this case, it's going to be grants.gov or your application package, and then align these and start filling out what you can as you complete it so that you don't leave it to the last day, because that administrative component of submitting a proposal can take hours. And if you leave it to last minute, you're going to find out that you are going to make errors or you're missing something. So don't wait till the end. And then this is, here's a 10-week program. Right now, you're looking at maybe 5 weeks. So you'd have to condense this and play catch. But this is, typically what a way to structure what you're going to be doing and when for a DOE proposal over a 10-week period. Okay, and here's a proposal outline as it relates to the major sections of most proposals. Today, we're going to be reviewing your project narrative, which is the meat and the most important document in your solicitation or your proposal application, right? So we're going to be focusing on these, and I'm going to give you some strategies for writing the technical objectives in the work plan. Okay, so for keys to success, make sure that you're underconfident and over-prepared. This will make you be able to not oversee things that are important. If you're overconfident, you're going to think you know it all, and you're probably not going to write a good proposal. And do your homework. Make sure that you understand all those other things that we just talked about a few minutes ago. Start early, submit early. Murphy's Law tends to creep the last day, the last hour of submitting a proposal when it's due. The DOE lets you send and contact their topic authors. So if you still have questions after reviewing their webinars, send them an email, and we'll go over the do's and don'ts of what asking to these folks. But if you can talk to them or email and get answers to some of your questions to clarify the topic, do so, and do so early. And make sure that you also understand if there are other opportunities for your proposal, because you need to apply to as many as you can while you're waiting for money to be awarded. And there is always a high probability that you won't get an award. And consider storyboarding and win themes that are related to your innovative solution, to your excellent team and facilities, and your commercialization potential and success. All right. So here are the typical components, and some have like volume 5, but in general, you're going to have cover sheet. It's either going to be submitted online or as part of one of the documents. And the technical volume typically has the sections, and these are sections that align well with what you're going to need to do on your narrative, project narrative for the DOE. So you're going to have to understand why you're doing this and why it's important. What are going to be some public benefits? What are your objectives? And how are you going to demonstrate that your technology is feasible? And how are you going to do it? And how long it's going to take you? Who's going to be doing it and where you're going to do it? Okay. And there's always a cost volume or a budget section. And commercialization report in some cases has to do with the activities that and the funding that you have received that are related to the innovation you're submitted. So if this is the first time you're submitting something related to this innovation, your commercialization report is not going to have much information because you have not commercialized. Okay. The project narrative for the phase 1 is 15 pages. For the fast track is 25 pages. There's going to be an abstract or a summary that you need to submit. And please don't include URLs or links in your proposal, because as reviewers, we have to review the proposal with what we see there. We are not supposed, our task or our approach is going to work because look at this URL. No, we are not required to go in all the URLs you put in there. You can make it as a reference, but don't expect the reviewers to have to go and hunt through links to understand why something you're saying actually works. It's got to be all inclusive in the proposal you're submitting. You're going to need a budget and a budget justification. All key persons are going to need bio sketches. In some cases, you're going to have to show that if what you're currently doing, what is pending funding support. In the case of a phase 1 submission, you're going to have to include a commercialization plan with a maximum of 4 pages. And if you're doing a fast track or a phase 2, you're going to need a commercialization plan as well, and you'll have more pages for it. If you're doing fast track, you're going to need a cybersecurity self-assessment. So that requires time. And so just be aware that you need to do that. There's, again, that's why I say that you need to do the admin stuff early, because there's additional information that you're going to be having to put about SBIR, STTR information online, and that takes time to answer. You're going to have to do a data management plan. We're not going to discuss that here, but it's a separate file. And you're going to have to disclose any foreign relation. So make sure that you know this as well. For fast track applications, it's a phase 1 and a phase 2 combined into one narrative. And that's why you get more pages for it. And it's a fast way to get to phase 2 if you demonstrate phase 1, and you wouldn't have to compete for phase 2. You have to have a high potential for commercialization, and you're going to have to demonstrate that in your commercial plan. Again, you're going to have clear measurable goals for both phase 1s and phase 2s. And you can't submit a phase 1 and also a phase track application. You've got to submit either or. And the award size is much larger, as you can see. I don't believe the water power and the solar topics have a technology transfer opportunity, but other topics do. But that's in the case where the DOE wants to leverage and license out some of their technology. So take a look. There might be application for that, and the opportunity for you to license some of the technology that the DOE or national laboratories have. And there are topics sometimes that have that, and it's an opportunity for you to take in and license DOE's ideas or innovations. All right.
Sonia,
Going to get into the project narrative.
Can I pop in with a question, Sonia?
Yes.
Sure. What is the main difference between, this is from Olga, between identification and significance and anticipated public benefits?
We're going to go and talk about that right now.
All right. Thank you.
Is that it? All right. So on the project narrative, this is your technical proposal. Okay. So there's going to be a title page, and we're going to go through each of these, the title page and the rest shortly. We're not going to be discussing these optional ones. Okay. But there's going to be a title page. It won't count against your 15 pages, and it will include the proprietary data legend. But as part of your technical proposal, there's going to be these subsections, right? So there's going to be the identification, significance of problems and opportunity, which is why you're doing this, as well as an anticipated public benefits. Again, why your technology and innovation is going to be important for the world, basically. And then we're going to go over the technical objectives. That's what you're going to be doing. The work plan, which is how, and it's got a link into your technical objectives. And there's going to be a performance schedule. It could be represented by a Gantt chart, for example, as to when you're going to do these tasks, where you're going to perform them. Are you partnered with a research institution, or do you have other consultants and subcontractors? You've got to identify these, and then references cited. They also have to be included on your narrative. And if you have letters of support from potential customers or partners, you can add them to the other attachments. And then if there's additional funding or follow-on funding, they also are part of the other attachments. Okay, the project title or cover page will have the title, your company, your address, who's the principal investigator, their complete contact information, an administrative point of contact and their complete contact information, the notice of funding opportunity number, your letter of intent tracking number. So if you didn't submit one 2 days ago, you're not going to be able to submit an application. Okay, just FYI. The topic number and subtopic, the key persons, and in the case that you might have sub-awardees like a research institution or another organization or subcontractors, this is if they're important and key, you will list them here and who they work for. And then if there's a proprietary legend, you will put it on that first page. And again, it does not count towards the total page limitation. Okay, here's where we're starting to get into the meat of your proposal. So the identification and significance of problem opportunity is the first section of your narrative. And it defines the specific technical problem of opportunity that you are addressing with your application. Make sure you provide enough background that the reviewer can identify the importance of this problem and opportunity. And make sure that you describe in general terms here what is going to be your overall approach and what your solution is and why it's innovative. This section has to be persuasive. It's the first section of your proposal, right? You've got to, after I read this, hopefully in the first page, I want to be really excited and I want to read the rest of your proposal. But on this first page, I've got to understand what the problem is and what your solution is and why you're going to be so great. Otherwise, I'm just going to be kind of bored reading the rest and not motivated. So make sure this wow effect comes in the very first page. Okay, so make sure that you describe the problem briefly and your solution. And how do you envision transitioning it, right? So who's your end user and what is your vision of where it's going to be going? And I always suggest that you include this like a figure at the very beginning. If at all, I look at this figure, I can get what the problem is and what your solution is, you are effective. And now I'm really motivated and I can make the link between the problem, the solution, and the topic that I'm responding for, right? And that figure, if it tells me that story, I'm already motivated and I get it. And I'm already positive about what I'm going to see later on, right? So you've captured my interest. Place that hook. All right. The next section, Olga, is the anticipated public benefits. Here's where you get the opportunity to discuss the technical, economic, social, and other benefits of the your solution. how do I anticipate it's going to help? It's going to create more jobs. It's going to be a better solution. It's solving a problem that right now is not being solved, that costs a lot of money, or that, that people are having problems. It's going to create more jobs, right? And that's where you get the opportunity to describe why you're doing this and how it's going to benefit the society. And also, is there a commercial application, and how big this commercial application or market is, right? Are there other federal government areas where your application is going to fit? Mention it there, right? So, hey, it fits this solution I'm going to bring. The military is going to save tons of money, and it's going to make the warfighter more effective in completing the missions, right? That's a public benefit. And if you have a table that you could include what are these features, advantages, and benefits, add it there, or a figure. Again, I'm a visual person. Anything that you could do for me to understand and be impressed by what you're saying, then I like to see it on a figure. It's not a requirement, and you always have the trade-off between pages and real estate. So you have to make those decisions. These are just my suggestions. And you'll notice I try to put them in green, and things that are like no, I try to put them in red or important. All right. I hope I answered your question, Olga. Uh, Technical objectives. So what am I going to be doing? I recommend, this is just the phase one, even on phase twos, don't overscope with 10 objectives, maybe 3 to 6 objectives. Make sure that these objectives have measurable success criteria. And to make it easier, and in some cases, some solicitations ask you to include the technical objectives and what are the questions you're answering, right? And so if you think that way with what I'm going to be doing and what are the technical questions, then you can use that to translate into tasks in your approach. And I'll show you how. And don't overscope. That's why I like to have just a few objectives. And then you're going to be using these to tie them in, make sure that your technical objectives match the requirements of the topic you're addressing, right? And again, here I suggest using a table. So you have objective 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have what questions you're going to be answering. So again, for instance, you've got 3 technical objectives. Each of them has 1 or more questions you're answering. And then these can be, if you're saying, for instance, my new solar photovoltaic technology will have a better performance or will increase the performance by 20%. What tasks do you need to accomplish to demonstrate the question, can it have 20 or more % improvement? Right? So that's kind of that. And these tasks are what are going to be part of your work plan. So here's a sample table where there's 3 technical objectives and the commercialization market, for instance, and then you list them out this way. Okay, I mentioned at the very beginning that we're going to be using a systems engineering work plan. This is just recommendation. You could do your proposal, your write-out with what works for you, but I think this will make the reviewer understand what you're proposing and how you propose to do it a lot easier. So you're going to have input to process and your outputs. As part of what are the inputs to this process, they're going to be the resources, the questions, the people, and then the process in itself are going to be those tasks. And the output is the milestones. What is measurable? What have you accomplished? Were you able to successfully meet the criteria and the requirements that you were addressing in your objectives? So, what is the task to be accomplished? Who's going to be doing the task? When you're going to be performing them, and where you're going to do it, why they're important, and how you're going to accomplish the task. And keep in mind that if you address it this way, then you're going to be able to create a better budget. And it's going to help you keep it within the scope of your budget for your phase 1 or phase 2. All right. So these technical objectives are a substantial part of your narrative. So make sure that you're explicit, that you detail in description of in your research approach and the work that you're going to be performing. Indicate what you will do, who's going to do it, where it's going to be done, and how you're going to carry out the work. And these objectives have to be written in a way that you can actually prove the technical feasibility of your innovation, and it will help relate to the work plan. And if there are specific methods you're going to be using, you're going to have to outline and describe them on your tasks. And this is what the work plan is going to do. If you read the solicitation, it tells you you've got to link the work plan to your technical objectives. And the best way to do that is for each task, you relate it back to the technical objective that you're addressing. Okay, and one way to do it is to outline it on your task, or if you create a table. And then discuss on each task what methods you're going to be using, and how you're going to be doing, who's going to be doing it. And then keep in mind that for your schedule, you can't take more than 12 months for a phase 1 and 33 months for your fast track. And what are the milestones of each task? So what are the tasks to be performed? What is going to be the output, milestone, deliverable of each of your tasks, and how long each task is going to take, who's going to do it, and where is it going to be done. So for instance, on your task outline and in your application, you're going to have a number of tasks. You describe what you're going to do. What are the objectives it's related to? What are the milestones? Who's going to do it and where? And you follow this for each of your tasks. And then you are required to provide a project schedule as well. So I like to create a Gantt chart. Other people just write in, a table with how long it's going to take. It's up to you how you do it, but you have to add a schedule. Okay, for key persons, make sure that you identify, on the first cover page, you have written who's going to do, who is going to work on the project and who they work for. It's important that you have good bios or resumes for these folks. There's going to be instructions in the solicitation of how to include that in the application package. And so these folks have to have enough expertise to carry out the tasks that you have outlined in your work plan, right? If you have folks that are not experts on what you say you're going to do, the reviewer is going to notice. And so also make sure the PI is qualified and satisfies the requirements for your solicitation. For the facilities and equipment, this is important too. If you say you're going to be testing something, where are you going to test it and how? Do you have the equipment? Or does your sub-awardee or subcontractor have the equipment? And so here's where you have the opportunity to list and brag about your facilities, your location, your equipment, your partners. And for instance, if you're a client of the UACI, and you're going to be using lab space, get a letter from the UACI stating what capabilities they have, and then you can refer to that letter here. Subcontractors and consultants, again, make sure, and in this section, you're going to list them, who they are and how, what their importance is, what they're going to be doing. And you will be needing for them to give you a letter of commitment stating exactly what they're going to do and for how much, because that will be required to be added to your budget and the budget justification. All right.
Sonia,
Commercialization. Yes.
before you go on to commercialization plan, I thought it might be a good time to stop and answer a few questions. Would that be okay? And I think because some of them just went over personnel, so I want to make sure that everyone felt like they got their answers. Olga had asked who are considered key I'm thinking personnel. Should the subcontractors and or consultants be reported in this form? And
so if they are performing an important task and they have the background expertise, yes, you're going to need to have a resume or bio sketch and add it where the application package requires you to do so. So in a lot of cases, you bring in consultants to expand the capabilities of your team because your company is a startup and you might not have everyone. So keep in mind though, SBIR, no more than 1/3 can be subcontracted out. But as a reviewer, I would prefer that you have the knowledge as an employee as versus a consultant. But in some cases, a consultant can be brought in to validate that what you've done is actually working, right? For the performance example that I gave. Or they could be brought in to help you define the requirements of where you're going to be integrated your technology, for instance, a utility company or a grid, right? So that's illustrations of an expert or a consultant that could be brought in. But if it's going to be a key person that fits a role in your tasks, you will need a sketch or resume to be included. And you will have to at least have a blurb. Again, you have all these trade-offs of page count, enough in a paragraph to describe why that person's important.
And to stay on that same thought on personnel, Maurice had asked, can there be a co-PI for an STTR? And do they need to be currently registered in PAMS? Is it better to have the RI university as a subaward, i.e. their salary, equipment, and materials are all in the subaward?
That's a very complex question to ask for today. And given that we only have about 15 minutes to go, let's discuss that on office hours. But the trade-off between STTR and SBIR is not an easy one to make. If you don't have a qualified PI in your team, sometimes going the STTR route, specifically with the DOE, is an important one, right? Because then the PI could be at the research institution rather than at your company. But then there's issues about the budget and who's going to be doing what, and that goes outside the scope of what we're discussing today. It's not an easy answer. There's always trade-offs and reasons and opportunity for choosing SBIR versus STTR.
I'll ask a couple more and then maybe we can pause and try to get them at the end and then see what's left for office hours. But Abraham had asked, some data is only available at websites like EIA statistics. Oops, I lost it. How do we include that if website references are discouraged?
I would include it as your in the bibliography or references section, right? And sometimes you could make them footnotes, but don't expect something that's important to describe your innovation. Don't send me to look at the brochure of your website, for instance. It's like, oh, find the image in this web page, for instance, right? So a lot of times you could put it as a reference and just describe what is important about that reference in the paragraph where it needs to go.
Sonia, we'll pause there. I have a couple more from Ed and Amanda, but let's wrap up and then we'll save these questions for the end.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to try to go real quickly now because we have only 10 minutes to go. So this is a requirement of the phase one, the commercialization plan, and it must start with your company name and this sentence: estimates cumulative sales revenues of dollar amount licensing and dollar amount for cumulative during the first 10 years of commercialization. So make sure that you understand your business model to be able to write that statement. And in your commercialization plan, explain how you got to that in the revenue forecast section. So you need to explain here in 4 pages or less what the market opportunity is. Here's where you get to brag about your team, and if you have any intellectual property. And more details are found in the solicitation on the FOA. Okay, so don't overscope your budget. Make sure that it relates back to your tasks, and make sure you understand what your direct labor and indirect rates are going to be. And that's, again, like a completely different webinar, and I'm not going to touch into that today. Work with a good qualified accountant if you need to. There are, if you are writing a phase one or phase two fast track, you can ask for commercialization assistance through the TABA. And the selfish plug for me here, I can do that, be included as a vendor for you for this. For DOE, you can reach me later, but this helps you with your commercialization activities, especially when you're going to be submitting a phase two proposal. The research done under TABA can help you have a better understanding of what you need to do to commercialize your technology. All right, evaluation criteria. There's 2 forms, administrative and merit. And you need to understand both, because if you fail your administrative, you probably won't get a merit review. So each agency is different. Make sure you understand it. For DOE, you can talk to the topic author, and you could do so by emails. And then make sure that you understand when and how you can communicate and what questions you can go, so that it can give you the decision of go or no go. Because like I said, it will take you a lot of time to write a good proposal. So the DOE communicates by giving webinars, and they're all there listed. There's links on their webpage. Make sure you listen to them so that you don't contact the topic author for something that has been already given in the webinar. And you contact the topic author or TA when you need further clarification on the topic that will help you decide if there's a good fit or not. You don't call them to talk about your company and your approach. You call them to clarify the topic and to see if there is going to be a good fit for what you're going to be proposing. Let them speak. So it's about listening and not about you talking. And then make sure you read your solicitation. Each agency is different. Each year the solicitation can change. Know where and how to submit. Make sure you understand your page limits, your margins, the footers, the headers. Make sure you understand exactly what is required, and don't miss an attachment, because then you'll be disqualified and your application will be thrown out. And I've listed here the more important ones. Due times and dates. They don't make exceptions. If you submit late, in some cases, the thing shuts down. It doesn't let you submit. In other cases, it'll tell you it's too late. More administrative. Make sure you include your project title. You've done your letter of intent. You've included a commercialization plan. And these are some of the major ones. The solicitation has a whole bunch of other requirements. Okay, we're reaching close to the end. Key review criteria. You're going to be reviewed for innovation and technical merit, your ability to carry out the project that has to do with your team and your resources, what impact. This relates back to the benefits and anticipated benefits section. So for innovation, how innovative is your idea? What's the significance of it? And how thorough are you presenting it? So this is section 1 of your narrative as well as your work plan. And the ability to competitively carry out your plan, the qualifications of your PI, the soundness and adequacy of your work plan, and to what degree are you responding to the DOE's topic and justify that the fact that they're going to give you this money, what's going to be the impact? So again, the impact, significance of the technical and economic benefits, what's the likelihood that's going to be able to come to the market, and that you can attract more funding, right? Because you don't want to end up on the valley of death. And how appropriate is your data management? And then for fast track applicants, you're going to have a more compelling market opportunity, not more compelling, but more bigger commercialization plan. And this is where you're going to have to include more on these sections. Additional criteria, there's going to be merit review, program policy factors, and you're going to find all this also outlined in the solicitation. How they're going to select, there's a process for selection, and a review of risk. So when you're writing to evaluation criteria, make sure that you understand the agency's or the office's missions and objectives. So read the references for each of your topics. Make sure that you have strong writing skills so that you present a strong case for funding. It's easy to read and follow the outline. Use win themes. So do you have an innovative solution? Do you have a great team? A strong commercialization plan? How do you differ from your competitors, right? What makes you unique? And what are going to be the advantage of benefits of using your capabilities and your innovation versus others? All right. So Amanda has outlined here some additional resources so you can ask questions for water and solar to these emails. I love the DOE's partnering platform. So if you haven't registered, we have a link when we send you this, but go in and explore it. There's a lot of resources there, and you can find out what the DOE has funded, who's been doing it, what the innovations are, and you're going to have also the option to find potential partners for commercialization. And here's additional resources. There's the main site, applicant resources here at the webinars, and the topic file. The schedule, right now, if you submitted a letter of intent a couple of days ago, you'll hear whether it's responsive or not before the end of the month. And the applications are due February 26th. No exceptions are done unless the date changes. And tentative award notice is May. And then you would be starting around July. Okay, so in summary, I presented a form of writing a proposal, request letters of support early if you need them. Remember that there's both administrative and merit review, right to the evaluation criteria. And this is also very well described and outlined in the solicitation. So read it. Make sure you get that wow effect. I recommend using a systems engineering approach. Expect to spend a lot of hours. Register early, read solicitation, attend the webinars, communicate with the program manager or the topic author if you can. Here's our contact information, and let's answer questions.